While we continue with reaction to President Cyril Ramaphosa's plans to tackle the energy crisis, Black Business Council President Elias Monage joins me now via Zoom. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Dr. Monage. Let's talk a little bit about your reaction as the Black Business Council to this energy plan that has been put forward. Many saying that, of course, it means that perhaps we'll have consistent energy supply and therefore businesses will actually be given an opportunity to finally recover from the more stringent lockdown measures that we experienced over the past 2 years. But what do you make of it as a whole?
Evening, Faith and the listeners. I think firstly, we welcome the President's response to the current energy crisis. However, we are disappointed because the issues that the President have addressed and alluded to, they are not going to address or deal with the load shedding or rolling blackouts. And I'll tell you why we are of that view. Firstly, the problem, I guess, that the President have identified in the response is not in line with the current problems that we're faced with. The problem that we're faced with, Faith and the listeners, is around the base load, which is the coal power stations. That's the main problem of the energy crisis that we're faced with. And that's the reason why we'll continue having load shedding and rolling blackouts. Now, whether it was as a cost of a deferment of maintenance and other related issues, it's one and the same. It falls within the same basket of a lack of maintenance or lack of addressing the critical aspects of energy in terms of the base load, which is the coal power stations. Now, the response to the President in terms of the 24 months or 18 to 24 months in terms of addressing other energy mix, that's not the issue at hand. Whether we want to talk about wind, we want to talk about solar, we want then to talk about people putting roof tops or the solar on top of their roofs. That's not the solution, because all those solutions are dependent on weather. If we don't have the sun, definitely you cannot then have electricity in terms of solar. Secondly, if you don't have wind, it then means you don't have electricity. Thirdly, even if we're then to have the battery storage, it then means maximum storage in a battery is between the maximum is 4 hours. And after that, then you are back into the blackouts. Now, one of the areas that we have raised, Faith and the listeners, is that surely we need then to deal with the competency of the current leadership of Eskom, in which, again, we're disappointed because the President is not addressing lack of engineer in the team of Eskom, a lack of even Andre himself. He doesn't understand that energy. And then I think we have agreed with the Minister of Energy on that score that Andre Director, as the CEO, he basically we have made calls that he must basically vacate the office, let alone even the board, because even within the board, we don't have a business person that understands the issues at hand. We don't have even the financial, even Andre himself, we have addressed those issues to say within the board, they don't have business people, they don't have even a financial person. And these are some of the issues that we have raised in terms of leadership. And because the fish rot from the head, we don't have leadership at Eskom in terms of addressing these issues. And the point that we have raised, even when we met the presidents on the 19th of July, was that, one, we need them to talk about the leadership of the entity. Secondly, we need them to address the issue at hand. The issue at hand is the base load. Now, we cannot then defer and then move away a focus from addressing the base load. We then talk about the energy mix, because energy mix is a top-up from when you have a sustainable, dispatchable electricity generated from the base load. And that's part of the problem, that we don't have sustainable and consistent energy that is derived.
But then let me ask you this, Mr. Monage, then, as you're saying that if the base load is not taken care of, then it does not matter what kind of energy mix you put into the picture, you're not solving for X. The National Energy Commission that is now going to be established, do you see it working?
I don't think so, Faith and the listeners, because we need to address the question of maintenance as priority number one. We need to address the issue at hand, which is the base load. And if we don't address the base load, because that's the current coal fleet, and whether you are going to establish a national a crisis committee, we had lots of committees before. We need sustainable energy, and businesses, they've suffered to date drastically, and some of them they've even closed down. So now, even if we are then to put an interministerial task team in any form or shape, we don't think they're going to address the issues. We need then to bring people. Lots of engineers, they've left ESCOM under the current leadership. And again, we need them to make that call. We've made a call for those who have left then to return into the entity in whatever form or shape, so that we can then beef up the current maintenance problems within ESCOM, so that we address the question of the base load once and for all in terms of the maintenance, so that we can then continue to provide the maximum requirement for the demand for electricity. So these are some of the issues that we've raised with the presidency in detail. And then I think we don't think that up until now the presidency have taken into account the issue that we have raised. I mean,
I hear you on that. Just to interject on this one, Mr. Monage, is that the element of skills development within ESCOM, or the skills deficit that exists within ESCOM. I mean, during his address itself, the president did say that they're going to be going back to those who left the power utility, those engineers who actually had the critical skills, and finding a way to bring them back so that they then can speak to exactly what you're saying, that if there's a skills deficit and the people, the engineers who are part and parcel of it, would be brought back, then maybe things would move towards the right direction. Now that during his address is articulated that fact, do you see it then moving into that trajectory where we can finally do a cleanup, taking into mind that under the same breath, he also mentioned how even with the power stations themselves, you have people that are sabotaging, deliberately so, the power stations?
Faith, again, the starting point, we need to deal with the current leadership that are not competent in terms of moving them out of the way, so that we then bring competent people. That some of them they've left because of the current incompetency and lack of knowledge of the current leadership. And I'm saying the starting point, we need them to move the current leadership. I mean, Andrea failed dismally, including even the board. I mean, throughout this load shedding and rolling blackouts, we have seen the absence of the board. They went AWOL. And I'm saying the starting point is basically then to deal. If we talk about decisive action from the presidency, was supposed then to deal with the removal of the entire board, including the CEO, so that you then reconfigure a proper board with proper skill sets in terms of understanding the energy generation. And we don't have that. And secondly, even if we're then to bring people that some of them, they've worked there, some of they're pushed out by the current people. Now, we are not resolving any issues. Hence, I'm saying the starting point, you deal with the current, and then you then call those who have left with appropriate skills then to come back into the entity.
We're going to have to leave it there for this evening. Thank you very much for your insights. Black Business Council President Elias Monage just giving us his reaction.